right. If anybody who's not over here would like to join us, now would be the time. All right, so we're gonna wrap up with a discussion, and I'm actually gonna start that discussion with a silent reflection. So if you would take a few minutes and reflect on what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've participated in today, that'd be great. I have a couple of guiding questions too, if you want to write these down or try to answer them. And those are, what brought you here today? What you will take away? And something you notice about this map or about the exercise and creation of the map. And I'm going to write some stuff for myself as well. So we're going to start with that third point, the map. Can I ask what everybody wrote for that last question? Jesse, you look like you have something to say.
I wasn't here for the map.
Well, what do you notice about it? All the better. What do you notice about it?
I'm on the spot. I'm noticing there was a lot of participation. The word interconnectivity jumps out at me, especially in spite of the fact that it's right next to a very circular looking map. Like another word that jumps out is maybe like compatibility in spite of the circularity. It seems like this whole event today was kind of geared around not anything about the environment or interactions, but just harmony and interactions in general. And the fact that there is kind of like a schism right now between like what we want out of our environment and out of each other and what we're actually getting. So.
Awesome. I'm using the mic because I'm sick and I'm going to amplify my voice. Anybody else?
In the water and climate change group that I facilitated, we talked about a lot of issues, but I think in the middle of the map we put kind of the main points, which aren't necessarily solutions, but kind of principles to think about. The main thing we discussed was just basically access to water, but there's a lot of kind of sub-questions and issues around there. One of the things we talked about, for example, was kind of, we're looking at the shared waters map and how on the east side there's all this public housing, and that's one area where there's no water access. So that was like, in addition to water access, it's, you know, we talked about water access for this specific geographic population and how that relates to the broader picture of everything.
Yeah, so I noticed that too. I noticed the word access pop up for a few of the workshops. I also noticed engagement, public awareness, or public, what's the other one? Public knowledge, increasing public knowledge, quality of life, local, safety, community, transparency. So I'm wondering what it means that those are coming up often. What it means that there's overlap there. That despite the fact that there's a disparity of issues, that we're talking about food in one corner of the room and co-ops and sharing systems in another corner, and the fossil fuel divestment movement in another. What it means that we see these things recurrently. Does anybody?
Yeah. I think really what it means is that, you know, regardless of what you're passionate about or you know, what you're majoring in at the new school, as a collective, everyone's identified a lack or a space where there's opportunity for
this idea of the triple bottom line, where everything is connected. It's so often put in much more, I guess, rigid and academic terms, and I'm realizing when I'm looking at this with all these overlapping terms in terms of just values, that's a much more, I guess, human way of looking at it, that everything is connected. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, that if you're facing a social issue, then it has economic aspects, but here it's being presented in a way that's, I guess, more accessible, because it's not coming from a top-down area. It's from that gut instinct, that feeling that you could probably attract a lot more people with, and probably engage a lot more people with.
Yeah, and that's what this is about. It's about engagement. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not particularly positive, but I think that in actuality, all those problems, all the issues we have there originate from the same ignorance that we all either have at certain times. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's not, sometimes we're conscious of it. Sometimes it behaves in groups, sometimes it's individual decisions, and I think that everyone has the possibility to sort of shine light on it, whether you depend on somebody else to do certain parts of this, but I think that's the same, or it's the ignorance of what it is we're looking for in each of these aspects of our lives and what we're not finding. And I think it's just sort of that popped out on this circle.
Anybody else? Yeah, sure.
One of the first things that jumped out to me, I am on the left side, but I saw closing the loop, kind of in the upper left quadrant over here. And like you had mentioned, like, you know, the triple bottom line, it's a planet, it's a cycle. We operate on cycles, you know, we have academic years and fiscal years and all that stuff. And the way I kind of had seen this is that we are operating within a box. There's this cycle of a problem that we have, and even though we have them in different sections, they're all part of essentially the same problem. They all originate in this sort of the same area. And out of all of us that are here today, there's only one sticky note that is not within the parameters, which I found really interesting, and I can't even read what it is. So, socioeconomic, interesting. Okay, cool. That might actually kind of sum up my statement.
Well, I guess if nobody else has anything to say, I will express my intention with this, because I sort of came up with it, and that was for it to be illuminating in the sense that it would really highlight the overlap among the issues. So everybody kind of hit that nail on the head. But that despite the disparity in the topics, in the subjects themselves, and also at a scale, differences of scale, some of them being more micro issues, some of them being more macro issues. There, were you gonna say anything?
I think it's also hopeful, or it's encouraging to know that if you make an impact in one section of the circle, it'll impact everything else like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. That was another thing. So while we all sort of rally around different issues, because it makes sense to sort of specialize in that way, we ultimately are here to build solidarity and support one another. So, and it makes sense to, because there is that overlap. So what I had in mind was to eliminate that overlap among the campaigns and movements, and encourage solidarity, and acknowledge that nestedness. So as we talk about connecting on the basis of the human experience, which is ultimately what that can be summed up as, and identifying shared values, I have another question for you, and that is, who is missing from this room? And this is the... Huh?
President Van Zandt.
Yeah, amen. This discussion is titled Overcoming Apathy. So my question is, who is missing from this room? And that doesn't have to be, so straightforward, like your siblings or your parents or friends or peers or administrators, but who's not been represented in our discussions and workshops today as well. So if you maybe want to turn to a partner and just do a little pair share, and then we'll discuss that. So, who's not in the room?
Legislators,
Legislators.
policymakers.
The
Policymakers.
people who disagree with us,
Right. That is a big one.
who don't want to do this.
Emma agrees with that one. Who else? What do you think, Jill?
Like, it's a pretty particular demographic. Like, it's an event at a college that was mostly advertised to other colleges. So
Yeah.
That's what we were saying too, that it would be nice to take it out of the ivory tower and bring it into the community, both with like public and private institutions.
Nice. Yeah. Anybody else?
Indigenous communities.
For sure. What about you guys? Nicole?
I mostly talked about like my neighborhood in Bushwick and just how much people are affected by the environment in which they live, but how little organized effort there is to combat that. And yeah, so I'd like to take it to Bushwick specifically.
Yeah.
This might be abstract, but all earthly.
I dig it. Anybody else? Laura?
Well, other people kind of said the things that we were talking about. We were just talking about mostly how hard it is to get people who don't already have an interest in sustainability to come to these things to learn about
Good.
sustainability.
That's a perfect segue. So one of the last couple things, I couldn't have planned it better myself. One of the last couple things I want to address is engagement. And so when we think of why those people that we named aren't here, we were brainstorming before the event, and we thought of a couple things. And those things were fear-mongering and just like lack of inclusivity, which sort of I think covers a lot of the groups that that you guys mentioned. And so what I want is for you to either with the same partner or a different partner do another pair share, but answer the question or speak to what got you into sustainability or what you've seen others get excited about and how, whether it was just the way that the information was presented to them or what it was that really excited them.
Could you restate that question?
Yeah, so if you can speak to either what got you into sustainability, like what got you here today, like, or what got you started doing the work that you presented about, or speak to somebody else's story that you know of. Say you gave a presentation elsewhere and somebody came up to you after and said, I had never really thought about it that way, and you were the reason that they got excited. So either speak to a story, your own story, or somebody else's story. Is that more clear?
Once you know what major, to start to like every email that was centered around sustainability. It's just like a series of commitments.
That's awesome. Like, are you going to be, where are you going to, oh, great, no, I saw your post, that's awesome. We're on camera for the hour now. Sorry about that.
It's really tough right now. Yeah, people are very alienated from one another. It's frustrating. There's like so many barriers.
How I felt about the sustainability story with you guys.
The last couple of questions. I had not anticipated posing this question, but now that I'm seeing like where this is going, I think it might be relevant. So I'm gonna pose this question, and then I'm gonna pose one that will follow it, that will sort of like contradict it, but I think it'll be sort of fun. So that first question is, what gives you moral outrage? That should be easy. The second one, maybe a little bit harder. What gives you hope? And where, sort of, okay, there's a third, sorry. The third question. What would you like to come out of today? And that's the one that I would like you to report back, just so we have a little bit of feedback. What would be really nice? What are you looking forward to coming of this?
What gives you
Like-minded people.
The fact that you walk into a room and hear something.
I hope the hope outweighed the moral outrage. I would love it for you to let me know what came of that third question. Britt?
Yeah, well, we all kind of had a bunch of interesting ideas as to what to do after today, or what we'd like to see come of today. But as you know, I traveled here from Albany, New York. I'm an upstater my entire life. I'd love to see a workshop and a conference similar to this upstate New York, gathering all the other folks that are upstate who are also kind of like-minded students. I understand this was an urban conference, but I'd love to see some of this energy moved up to Albany, because that's where the decisions actually happen and policy is made and passed without public input at all.
You guys?
Never actually,
We only got
through.
through.
Yeah, we got through the second.
Okay.
But I can speak to it just offhand. I am really happy to see these presentations and just run across projects. I mean, I feel like the multitude of projects alone should just teach you about how much hope there is. And yeah, so it's really exciting to have all these different interpretations and all these different intersections between different movements. And I just hope that those relationships continue to build, because I think that it's significant and we should never think that it's not.
Sure. I've been very excited to be here, particularly because I think that two of the things that have stood out in the conversation here are talking about opportunity and access. And I think that in order to have successful and sustainable movements, whatever, you have to constantly imagine not only who's not at the table with you, but also what kind of opportunities you're creating with your access points. And so I think that what's been super cool today is so many of these creative approaches to these larger systemic problems that meet people where they are, who don't have necessarily the academic language, or who are in a classroom all the time. So for example, with the Don't Flush Me, I thought that was a really cool idea to bring awareness, but to make it as intuitive as possible for people. I don't necessarily have to do more than just sign up for a text alert. And that's really dope, because it makes it easy for people to care about something you care about in a way that is approachable and relevant for them. So that's been great.
Thanks, Jessica. Anybody else? Yes.
As someone who is not actually majoring in anything relating to sustainability, I found this especially helpful. Because it also, throughout the day I've been thinking about how the idea of sustainability is almost always treated as a topic of interest, rather than an approach that could be applied to everything. And I think it would be cool to see this. I guess this is a little tangential, but it would be cool to see the Sustainapalooza kind of branch out, or even I don't know, the new school curriculum branch out in order to involve, in order to involve sustainability at least at some point in everybody's student career and everybody's life. Because for me, I find this valuable because yeah, like I said, like my career isn't going in the direction of like being an activist or something, but I can absolutely take stuff that I'm learning here and apply it to anything I do. I think that, in its essence, is just as important as having people who are like committing their entire life to this kind of mission.
If I'm not mistaken, Sustainable Systems is now a required first-year undergraduate class.
Just for Parsons.
Parsons? Just for Parsons? I thought it was new school-wide.
Yeah, just Parsons.
Oh,
I attended a Board of Governors meeting a little while ago for Lang, and that was something I brought up, that it should be new school one.
anyway, it's happening slowly.
Yeah. I'm sure there are other examples too. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to say I think this was such a very, very well organized conference, so you really should give yourselves a hand. Very, very well done. So it's really, really good to see that students are leading such dynamic conferences. To make it sustainable and to see it go into the future, I would love to make it really into a palooza and really go into the other universities and like make it open up to almost a academic-wide, I guess, competition or a day of, let's see what you have, what you kind of like feeding off each other. I know that's down in the future, but if you want to make sure that this keeps going, if not, bare minimum, if this happens again next year, that would be great. You know, gives other students kind of something to look forward to. So just basing off how well it was run, I think that will serve as a starting point for you guys to continue. So great job.
I think with that, I'll just say we have a lot of food back there.
We should announce the winners.
And we have winners.
Also,
Winners and food. Look
If
at that.
you didn't sign in coming in, could you maybe sign in and put your email address on so we can get a head count and also contact you in the future, just in case anyone didn't sign in? Thank you.
Okay, here's Emily.
Don't go home without taking some food.
Okay guys, so really quickly, I know we all want to know who's getting that seed money, but I just wanted to throw out a few thanks because it was a crazy event. It was been semester long. So just to everyone who helped cook last night, we had a huge cooking event, mainly Ryan, Jill, and Danielle. Thank you so much. Brandon Fisher, I don't know if he's here right now, but he really helped administratively put us through all this and help us out. To Rob Buchanan, our professor, who has helped us so much plan this and been with us every step of the way. To every single person in the class, that's Nicole, Adam, Josh, Zach, Elena, Sutton, Emma, Zara, Hannah, and myself. I think we should all pat ourselves on the back. Laura, wherever you are, you helped plan this, I know, from the beginning, so thank you so much. To all our presenters and facilitators for sticking with us through this and being our kind of guinea pigs for the first year of this event. To the University Student Senate and the Green Fund, who actually gave us the money to put on this event, and of course to Hunter Lovins, who's not here right now, but for arriving and giving an amazing speech this morning. So thank you, everyone. Drum roll, please. Okay, a real one. So our first place winner is Leaf, who presented on Don't Bless Me. Our second place winner, they're not here right at this moment, but they will be notified, Allison and Stephen, who presented on the trash can lids. And finally, to Allie and Brittany for Cella, you are our third place winners.